1:30. I'd like to call the Monday, September 21st, 2015 meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Commission to order. Let's have a roll call. Commissioner Witcher.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Littlefield. Not present. Commissioner White. Here. Commissioner Hale.
Here, sir.
Commissioner Schuline. Here. Commissioner Miller. Here. Commissioner George.
Here.
And Commissioner Yockel. Not here, but she is, so we'll log her in when she gets here. Can we have a motion concerning the minutes of the August 17, 2015 meeting, please?
I move that be approved as submitted.
Okay, hold on one second. Let the record show that Commissioner Yockel is now here, too. So the only one missing is Commissioner Littlefield. Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Witcher to approve the minutes of the August 17th meeting. Can I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Hale. Any discussion on the meeting minutes August 17th? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Witcher to approve the meeting minutes, seconded by Commissioner Hale. Can I have your votes, please? All right, item is approved. Okay, we go on to the report on licensed taxi and record services from the police department. Sergeant?
Afternoon, Commissioners. Last month, for August, on taxis, I had 11 new drivers, 29 renewed, and 2 exempts. Those are people that get their license that are already with a company that's umbrellaed. Vehicle inspections, I had 18 pass, 1 failed. Enforcement actions, I had 1 complaint, which turned into an investigation, 7 field inspections, and 15 citations issued. On limousines, I had 6 new drivers, 1 renewed. I had 23 vehicles passed and 3 failed. Carriages, I had 2 new drivers. Pedicabs, I had 1 new driver, 1 renewed. Shuttles, 1 new driver, 2 renewed, 1 exempt, and 1 vehicle passed. Any questions?
Does anybody have anything for the sergeant? All right, thank you very much for your time. Do you have a motion concerning item 5, the consent docket? Well, first of all, let me ask, is there anybody here to speak against an item on the consent docket? No, there isn't. Okay, let me have a motion, please.
Motion to approve consent docket.
We have a motion from Commissioner Hale to approve item 4.
Second.
And we have a second from Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion on the consent docket? We have a motion to approve item 4 from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline. Your votes, please. Okay, item is approved.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
At this time, I'd like to make a motion that we move the extra item number 1 to the forefront to go ahead and consider that item at this time.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Hale to move item 1, which was an item that was left off the original agenda that was published, but it was put to the city council, to the city clerk on Thursday, and it was posted by the city clerk for item 1 to be discussed before we hit item 5 and all the sub-items. Do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
We have a second from Commissioner Schuline. Any talk about that item? Okay, a motion from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Schuline, to move item 1 up for right up in front of item 5A. May I have your votes, please? Okay, so we'll go ahead and go to item 1. Applicant is Barbara DeBerry and Raywood Joubert, owners, Roland Luxury Chauffeur Services, LLC, 11025 Larkin Lane, Midwest City, Oklahoma, 73130, to consider an application for a certificate of public convenience and necessity from Roland Luxury Chauffeur Services, LLC, to operate 10 vehicles in limousine service. Anybody here to speak on this item? Great. Have you filled out one of these? Is this you here? No? Have you filled one of these out? Okay, when you're done talking, just fill one of these out, please. Let me have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
My name is Barbara DeBerry. My address is 11025 Larkin Lane, Midwest City, and I am the owner of Roland Luxury Chauffeur Service. I'm here to offer any information or answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you very much, ma'am. If you could go ahead and fill that out while we're talking. Staff input, please.
Okay, you've got a completed application before you for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate to a new limousine company. Staff would recommend approval of the application as presented.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 1? Additional item 1.
I'll move approval.
We have a motion to approve item 1 from Commissioner Witcher. We have a second. Where'd that come from? That came from Commissioner George. Do we have any discussion on this item? Okay, we have a motion to approve additional item 1 from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner George. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Thank you, ma'am. All right. Okay, we go on now to item 5A, Oklahoma City Police Department permits and ID unit, to consider revocation or the suspension of the certificate/business license issued to Quasi Enterprises and Imports LLC, doing business as OKC Green Taxi, for an alleged violation of Section 56-50 of the Oklahoma City Municipal Code 2010. Sergeant?
I got an email from Dan Goodman at the airport. He's the specialist out there that oversees all the vehicle for hires out there in the airport, informing me that OKC Green's insurance wasn't valid. At the time, they were with Venture Insurance, which their policy lapsed on August 8th of last month. So we both made contact with the insurance company, and the one that was submitted was actually fraudulent, the first one. It showed that it was valid from 8/6/15 to 8/6/16. When we contacted the Venture Insurance Company, they said this was a fraudulent form and had been redone on the dates. I contacted the owner of OKC Green and asked him if he had updated insurance, and he said he was getting some insurance at that time. It was on 8/20 that I received a new insurance form. This was through Evolution Insurance Company, so that one was dated from 8/20/15 to 8/20/16. So I called to verify with them that everything was valid on that insurance form, and when it started going through there, kind of find out there was only one vehicle insured on that form. He has up to 28 vehicles in his fleet. Also on that form, it was on the commercial auto liability section, which is the $750,000 to $1 million on the vehicles. It was fraudulent. It had 750 on it, and the original was only for 100. That company ended up stopping their insurance coverage with that OKC Green on 9/10 this month. Excuse me. On the so 2 fraudulent forms, and then I found out they were still working without any insurance on the fleet except for the one vehicle. So on 8/26, I went out to the airport and cited seven citations to 7 different drivers. Out of those drivers, 3 of those insurance cards in the taxis were fraudulent. The other ones were expired. So each one got a separate citation for vehicle for hire violation. Told them to park those cars and not bring them out because I did not have any valid insurance with me at that time. I kept trying to make contact with the owner if he's going to get updated insurance. I ended up citing the owner 8 citations, 7 for the ones out there at the airport for him not keeping insurance on the vehicles. Ended up catching another vehicle out on the road, verified it didn't have insurance, cited the insurance taken on that one, and cited the owner another additional taken on that one. Started getting a lot of phone calls from other taxi companies saying OKC Green was still out there functioning. For the safety of the public, if they got in a wreck, the insurance, they wouldn't be covered under insurance because there's no insurance on the vehicles at this time, except for one, and that was one of the vehicles out there at the airport, but it still didn't have the right insurance in there. Had a driver show up So the owner finally sends me another insurance form from a different company. This company, excuse me, let me go back here. The second insurance company that he got the one car insured on emailed me back and said that was an underwriter, said they're not going to carry him no more. The owner submitted another insurance request under Jesmond Enterprises, another business name, to get insurance. They said since it was the same company, they were not going to insure him all at that point. So he got another insurance, got with another insurance company, which was, look here. That's not the one. It was Collie Insurance. It was out of North Carolina, and I called them up. They only had 3 vehicles insured, but it was under the new Jesmond Enterprises name, which they have not submitted a new package for a new business and do a new taxi company. You have to have 5 vehicles to start a new company. Only had 3. The other day, I had another driver for Green Taxi show up at my office in a green taxi, wanted to transfer to Thundercab. I ended up citing that driver a ticket for no insurance and revoked their license. And then another one was 104, and I talked to that lady on the phone twice, and she refuses to come into my office, in which I had 2 taxis at the airport leave when I gave them a direct order not to leave so I could do my job out there. And 104 was the one that I still have not been able to get a hold of. So we have 3 insurance companies that nothing matches up to be able for them to have business here in the city. I've cited multiple drivers. Most of the drivers have transferred over, but there's still, I think, 3 to 5 drivers left in the company because he's still operating a business. I was also sent an email from another taxi company with a voicemail of OKC Green dispatching drivers out and still operating. Do I have any questions?
Nope, that's fine for now. Okay. Do we have any further staff input or anything from the staff before we have our next speaker come up? No? Anything from staff? No. Nothing further? Okay. All right, thank you very much. Quasi, if you'd like to go ahead and come on up. If I could have your name, your address, and you have up to 5, but if you need more, just ask.
Your Honor, my name is Qazi Islam, 7015 Lywood Lane, Oklahoma City. Your Honor, I was out of USA for last 3 months due to my father's was in life support. I've been in and out of the country 3 times for past 2 years. I lost my younger brother and 2 elder sister in past 2 years. I was not mentally myself and could not focus in my business due to the all issue. After I was informed with all the problems, came back last Wednesday. In 16, I came back. Your Honor, last year, we had 2 major accidents that why our previous insurance was not eligible for renew. I had no idea about any of the problems that was going on for the first of 3 months. Your Honor, after I was notified that the taxi were all grounded, I immediately go for junior from the administration of company. He was just an employee, not an owner, and change ownership because most of the insurance company was not giving us coverage due to the accident. Your Honor, I knew I would not be able to come right away to handle this problem. I had my daughter take over the company, and she has got the new insurance. It took us 21 days to get the insurance back up to running. We had notified the taxi officer and the airport. They have they have correct insurance document for the company. Your Honor, I have about 17 owners driver sitting at home for almost 1 month. We are behind financially, all waiting to get back to work with proper papers in hand. Your Honor, my request and pray to the committee that please forgive my drivers and myself with all this citation and help us get back to work. No one had any idea about the issue. The drivers are innocent, sir. This is my, sir, I was out of country, has been passport, everything. So, That's all, sir.
Okay?
Thank you,
So if
sir.
you just sit right up there, because I'm sure we'll have a couple questions for you. Okay, anything else from staff or anything?
I'm waiting any questions from the commission. Do you have it?
Well, do we need to make? Okay, yep. So nothing further from staff or anything?
We'll tell you what, just for the sake of those sitting in the audience, I'll run through the recommendations in the staff report. Based on the results of the investigation conducted by the Oklahoma City Police Department's Permits and ID Unit, it appears that Kazi Imports and Kazi Enterprises and Imports, doing business as OKC Green Taxi, is not in compliance with the insurance requirements as required under Section 5650 of the Municipal Code. At this point in time, staff recommends that the Commission consider all relevant evidence in order to determine whether the licensee has violated 5650 of the Code. If the evidence presented demonstrates to the Commission that Kazi Enterprises and Imports, doing business as OKC Green Taxi, has not violated Section 5650 of the Code, then staff recommends that the Commission not revoke or suspend their certificate and their business license. If the evidence demonstrates that the Commission, or to the Commission, that Kazi Enterprises and Imports has violated Section 5650 of the Code, then staff recommends that the Commission revoke their certificate business license. If the evidence demonstrates to the Commission that they have violated 5650, but further mitigating factors are presented of an independent action taken by the licensee to deter future violations, then staff recommends that those mitigating factors may be applied to the Commission's decision regarding revocation versus suspension, the appropriate length of suspension, or a waiver of suspension.
Do we have a motion concerning item 5A? You're first.
Motion to suspend the license.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Hale to suspend. Is there a time limit, or you'd like to add to that? Just to suspend until further notice?
Yes.
Okay, from Commissioner Hale to suspend until further notice the license for Quasi Enterprise LLC as Oklahoma City Green OKC Green Taxi. Okay, do we have a second on it?
Second.
We have a second from Commissioner Witcher. Okay, Commissioner Hale, seeing as it was your motion, you can go first if you have anything. Do you have anything?
From what I understand, they're not only, the insurance was out, but there were documents also that were doctored to give the appearance that the coverage was actually enforced when it was not. Is that correct?
Correct, sir. Two of them.
Okay.
Two different companies.
So, and I'm sorry about your father and your, loss of your brother, but at the end of the day, had that been a family member of mine in your cab that was injured and there's no coverage, I mean, when I get into a cab, I assume that the coverage is there because it's regulated. And if you hurt someone, it's just not fair. I mean, they're just rules that we play by, and you broke the rules.
Your Honors, I was not in the United States because I was back home like 3 months. My father was in life support. Everything happened over there. I don't know about it.
Then the business should have been shut down until you could have been back to take care of business.
Mr. Quasi,
Just going to stay up here. Just going to stay by the mic.
did I understand you to say that you now have valid insurance?
Yes, sir.
And has that been presented to the police so that the inspection
I think I did send you.
I have the
I have the
insurance,
copies.
but it's only covered for 3 vehicles, and it's under a different business name.
Okay. All right.
That's
So
what I had.
it's not valid for the license that you have. The insurance that you have doesn't cover the vehicles and the business license that you have.
No, that's 5 vehicles, right? Should be 5 vehicles.
Well, I thought you said you have 70 drivers at home.
Yeah, but because I'm already suspended, so I cannot drive. That's why I'm waiting for it.
Okay, so you have, right, but,
When you have given permission,
so
I have
what insurance do you have? Is it the one that the sergeant has for 3 vehicles?
progressive.
Well, just give it to the sergeant, please. Is this the one that you have, Sergeant?
Yes, this is the one that's with the Colleen Hines Insurance out of Kentucky. This is the one that's only for 3 vehicles.
Right.
And it's under Jessamine Enterprises, DBA OKC Green Taxi. Now, they have filed with the state, Secretary of State, for the LLC for Jessamine, but they are still under the corporate commission as Kazi Enterprises and Imports. So they haven't submitted a new package through the traffic commission with a new color scheme, a new taxi company under Jessamine Enterprises.
Is that where you're going, to change from OKC Green?
Yeah, because no other insurance give us the insurance, sir. That's the problem. So
Okay.
that's why I change my name on it.
Right.
So at least I get the insurance.
So you change your name, and it's for 3 taxis.
No, I should be all 17, but I start 3 first, then when you approve, well, then I can,
Well, the issue about 3 is you're required to have 5
Right.
available for 24-hour coverage.
right, sir.
But right now, you don't have enough for 5. You
No.
have a 3 vehicle.
No, I have, sir, but I don't file yet because I don't know what's going on.
Right.
So it's an approval, Your Honor, then I'll add the cars.
Okay? So, I got that.
So my...
Anything else?
My understanding of what I've heard is you don't have the insurance for the company that you have in place right now for Quasi Enterprises, and you don't plan on getting insurance for Quasi Enterprises vehicles because you're going to shut down that company and start with the other company.
Other owners.
So I might suggest to,
The company is same, sir. Green Taxi is same, only owner's names, like change it.
well, as far
Insurance.
as we are concerned, there has to be an application made for a license to have a taxi company. And so you might consider changing your motion to just revoke this one because that's the way he's heading now.
Okay?
Okay, so, any other questions before we go on, any motion or any changes to the motion? Any other questions off of the current motion to the applicant or the sergeant? Yes, sir.
Okay. Are your cabs running today?
Sir?
Those 3, are they running today?
No. They're sitting.
Okay. And how long have they been sitting?
So last 1 month, because near 1 month it's happening all things.
Is that correct?
No, sir.
So I have no idea, sir, because I was not here. So
So as far as the fact that 7 drivers and then a couple more have been out driving in the OKC Green, Green Taxi vehicles, you're not aware that they're out.
what is that, sir, again?
As the sergeant mentioned, he cited some of your drivers out in their vehicles driving without insurance. They were at the airport. That's what he talked about earlier, was on August 8th, I think you said, or August 8th, you got the phone call, and then in between there, you went and cited at the airport.
On August 26th, yes, sir.
August 26th, he went to the airport, and there were 7 of your vehicles there at the airport that he cited for driving without insurance.
Because, sir, problem was I was not here. What's going on?
Right, so you're saying you didn't say, hey, guys, go out and work.
Yes, sir.
They might have gone out on their own then.
Not should be.
We're just we're assuming that,
When I have an insurance, of course, they should be in the road. Without insurance, nobody can work.
right, so as far as you were concerned, they should have not been on the road.
Right.
And then we
Because
saw them on the
Who
road.
is in charge, the junior? He messed it up everything.
Right, okay. All right. Any other questions of where we're at right now?
I have a question for
Yes, sir.
staff, I guess. Is there a new application already submitted with the city for the name change or the ownership change?
No, there's not.
There's not. You say that, it sounds like you have to reapply with the city under the new name that you're getting your insurance under.
Yes.
That the old company that you can't get insurance for,
Right. Yes, sir.
it's no more.
Yes.
And you're right, you're going with a new name, a new company, so you have to apply with the city. What is the time frame on that? If he applied today, when could he, next month, be back in front of us with?
The codes mandate that if we receive or our division receives an application, we've got 45 days from the time we receive it to the time it's presented to the commission.
Knowing what we know, is there a way to fast track that at all and get it on the next month's or not?
That would be supposing that there's a completed application in our possession. There's no application that we're aware of at this time.
Right.
So I kind of go along with what Mr. Witcher was talking about. If you're saying that you do not want the old company to be around at all,
Right,
you're okay with us to revoke that license?
yes.
To just put it away, there's no need to put it on hold, there's no need to talk about it for another month or so, you're not going to use
Right.
that license. And in the process, you're going to resubmit under a new company,
So same green taxi?
same information, under a new owner's name, with insurance for at least 5,
Yes,
because you
sir.
need to have 5.
Yes, sir.
And then, once that package gets going, we'll see where we can go from there. Okay? So any other talk, just for right now, on that? Okay, so Commissioner Witcher had a recommendation to Commissioner Hale to modify his motion.
I'd like to modify my motion that instead of suspense, we revoke the license.
Okay? And Commissioner Witcher, you were the second. Are you okay
I'll
with
second
that?
the revised motion.
Okay? So any other talk on item 5A, which is a motion from Commissioner Hale to revoke the license, and seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Any other talk on this item? Ma'am?
I would just like to make a suggestion to the applicant. I feel compassion for your situation. I apologize that you're going through this. What I would say, though, is in your absence, anybody managing your business for you needs to have the integrity you expect them to. Reading that insurance documents have been manipulated in any shape or form is unacceptable. So I sense that you feel that and understand the seriousness of it, but when the next insurance document is submitted, through the process, make sure that they are representing you properly.
Sure, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other talk on item 5A?
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Sergeant, anything else? Anybody else? Okay. All right, so we have a motion from Commissioner Hale to revoke the license for OKC Green Taxi, seconded by Commissioner Witcher. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Okay, we go on now to item 5B. Mr. Chad Olson, President, Lake Ridge Run Neighborhood Homeowners Association, to consider a request for the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of Lake Ridge Run and Southwest 104th Street. Do we have anybody here to speak on item 5B? Sir, if I could have you come on up. When you're done talking, if you can fill out one of the forms. We have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Certainly. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Chad Olson. I live at 2709 Southwest 112th Street in the neighborhood that we're talking about in South Oklahoma City. After looking at the traffic reports, we kind of realized, if you looked at the recommendations that were there, that we knew that they weren't at the current levels that are required for a stoplight. This is kind of a preemptive thing. There are about 500 new apartment units that are going in on the corner of 104th and May, plus there is a Walmart going in on 104th and 44, which we feel is going to boost the traffic from, I think 104th was just over 18,000, well above the 20,000 mark. And it's already pretty tough to get out of our neighborhood. We have about 375 homes in the neighborhood, plus there's a couple other additions on either side of us that we feel a light would also help. There's also been a new retirement center, plus a couple strip centers that have been put in, and they're adding another strip center, all kind of within a mile. So that's why we're requesting the light at 104th. It is also, there have been some wrecks. So that's all that I have. Like I said, it's kind of a preemptive thing. We know that it's unfunded and it's going to be a while before they get put up if you do decide to put them in.
All right, thank you very much. Please fill out one of the forms as we proceed on. Anybody else here to speak on item 5B? Okay, can we have staff input, please?
Okay, you've got our complete staff report before you. Just in summary, in the absence of any mitigating circumstances such as a high collision rate or insufficient available decision sight distance, and because no manual on uniform traffic control device traffic signal warrants are met at this particular intersection, staff just does not have cause to recommend installation of a traffic signal at this time. Further in the recommendations, just for the public's information, should the commission approve the request for a traffic signal at this location, staff would recommend the approval include widening for 104th Street for a westbound left turn lane at Lake Ridge Run. The reason for that is explained in the staff report. However, our biggest concern is that in the absence of turn lanes, traffic signals cannot be very effectively run to meet left turn demands. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have relative to the study, our analysis, or any aspect of the staff report.
Question, was it about 2 years ago that we had reduced the speed limit on 104th and on South May from 45 to 40 to address the concerns?
Yes, we had taken an item to the commission. We did do a speed limit reduction that took it from about May Avenue over to I-44.
I think it took it on to Penn.
It may very well have taken
Because I believe it went from 89th to 134th, reduced the speed limit from 45 to 40, and then from 44 to Penn, reduced it from 45 to 40. I'm pretty sure because...
I don't know when it was reduced. It has been reduced in the last...
Okay.
Okay. All right, do we have a motion concerning item 5B?
I'll make a motion to disapprove the motion.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Hale to disapprove item 5B. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a second from Commissioner Miller. Do we have any discussion on this item? Ma'am?
To the applicant, I just want to say I appreciate a proactive request. It's a bit of a stinker because then the science doesn't always, go along with the request. But I want you to know the thinking I certainly appreciate. And when the speed limit has been lowered, this is just me talking. I don't have engineering or science to back this up, but I'm a driver like the rest. It seems like this is a pretty wide open area. The speeding could possibly make those sight distances feel a little tighter than they are. I mean, those are pretty wide open. I'm not crying. I just have a really watery eye today. This does not make me weep. But so I just wanted to say I think paying attention to the traffic counts and the activity that's coming into the area, and it's the science doesn't support it at this time, but I think you're on the right path here. What I would ask is, do you get a feel for, have a sense that there's excessive speeding that makes this even trickier? Could some additional enforcement, not trying to ask for more work from anybody yet, but it seems like if there's something that could be going on, you wouldn't be here if you didn't feel like there was a reason to be here.
We've had a couple cars that have come through. We have a concrete fence that surrounds our entire neighborhood. We've had a couple cars that have come through that right in the area. And there have been a couple wrecks in the last year. I don't remember. I think there were 2 if you look. So, but yes, the speeds have been reduced, and there still is a problem turning out of our neighborhood.
Yeah.
You can wait for a little while to turn right, not the problem. It's when you're turning left, either into the neighborhood or out of the neighborhood, that you see people flying around corners and cutting cars off to try to get in and out of the neighborhood.
I just like to think of what can be done if we're not at a point where the signal is the science doesn't support the signal. What can be done is what I like to ask. Is additional enforcement helpful? Is anything outside of a signal?
Short of allowing people to turn in and out of the neighborhood with a signal, I don't know what else could be done. I mean, the Oklahoma City Police Department is great in our area. They help us out with any calls that we have. There's just a definite problem getting in and out of our neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
If you don't mind, I'm not unsympathetic. I live 3/4 of a mile from the intersection you're talking about. I live there in Kingswood, and we had lights put in, and it's horrible. But different situation. I'm very familiar with the intersection. I've talked with some of the residents, I've really wrestled with which way to go on this, and I think there may come a point in time when we need to readdress this, but at this point in time, it doesn't warrant it, and it would just really inhibit the traffic flow on Southwest 104th at this time. Now, that may change. I fully acknowledge the apartments and the Walmart and all.
It changed 104th at 44. I don't know if that goes through the Traffic Commission, but just the traffic there has completely rerouted all of the on-ramps and off-ramps and lights because of the expected traffic flow from Walmart.
I understand. And like I say, at some point in time, we will probably need to readdress this. I'm just not sure this is the right time for that.
Okay. Any other discussion on item 5B? We have a motion from Commissioner Hale, seconded by Commissioner Miller, to disapprove item 5B. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is disapproved. Okay, we go on to item 5C. Mr. Chad Olson, President, Lake Ridge Run Neighborhood Homeowners Association, to consider a request for the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of South May Avenue and Southwest 112th Street. I see you already filled out the form. We'll put down for both items, so you have up to 5 minutes. Your name and address, please.
Chad Olson. My address is 2709 Southwest 112th. This is really kind of the same thing I just spoke about, except here there's an added issue with pedestrians. The pedestrians cross the street right at 112th, both out of our neighborhood from Hunter's Glen, which is right down the street, and Lake Ridge Run 4, which is right next to us, to get into the park. There's an issue with not having any crosswalks or even sidewalks to get to a crosswalk, so they all kind of converge at the street and cross the street. I've seen women running across the street with strollers, which scares me, seeing I have 3 kids. But yes, the traffic here is not near as bad. We knew that when we put in the request for this, but it is going to get, as we just spoke, worse, and there is also the added pedestrian traffic that's crossing, and it all seems to happen right there. We looked at 110th and 112th, and that seems to be where all 3 neighborhoods cross the street.
All right. Anybody else to speak on item 5C? Yes, sir. If I could have your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes, and then fill out a form when you're done, please, sir.
I have filled out the form. Thank you very much. My name is Lyle Henry. I reside at 11449 Lake Ridge Run in the same neighborhood. I just wanted additional to what he said, or part of what he said too, is the pedestrian traffic there is pretty heavy, and you asked earlier what other things can be done, to alleviate those kinds of things. And I realize this is not a sidewalk issue here, but one of the problems is on that street, May Avenue, we do not have any sidewalks for pedestrians to actually get to those safe intersections that are at 119th and 104th. So I think that's what part of the problem is too, is that people have to cross the street because they don't have any safe, and the children are not crossing that street without their parents. We haven't seen that, but there is the water park is over there too. So in the summertime we have additional traffic with the water park and the soccer fields and stuff like that. So children are there. So thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Okay. Anybody else to speak on item 5C? Okay. Can we have staff input, please?
Okay, you've got our comments before you. As Mr. Olson noted, the traffic volume at this particular intersection is not as great as it was over at the application that he had made for Lake Ridge Run and Southwest 104th Street. In the case of May Avenue and Southwest 112th Street, we've got a traffic entering volume of about 15,000 per day on May Avenue, and about 513 enter the intersection from Southwest 112th Street. So this particular intersection doesn't meet any of the warrants for considering use of signalized traffic control. So at this time, staff does not have cause to recommend approval of the use of a traffic signal at this particular intersection. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, thank you. Do we have a motion concerning item 5C?
I'm going to make a motion to disapprove the request.
We have a motion from Commissioner Witcher to disapprove item 5C. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second by Commissioner Miller. Do we have any discussion on item 5C?
Stuart, there's the concern expressed about pedestrians, and with early wine being across the street, I can certainly see that as a really valid concern. Are there other options, or what other options are there short of a signal for for increasing the safety for pedestrians.
Sorry, at this particular intersection, when we went out there and did our analysis, we would pick up pedestrian counts as best we can. However, when we typically do like turning movement studies and that sort of analysis, when you're running road tube counters, you don't get the opportunity to gather pedestrian information. If you look at some of the photographs, we've got, there's one that shows curb ramps on the east side of May Avenue at 112th Street.
Yes, sir.
It's not to say there may not be a significant pedestrian volume. However, the right-of-way, there's not that much disturbance to the lawn or the grass areas on the right-of-way that would seem to suggest that this is a high-traffic area where people are crossing May Avenue to get to Early Wine Park. Likewise, on the other side of May Avenue, there's not much in the way of evidence that there's like any sort of like a beaten path that goes from May Avenue into Early Wine to get to the park trails.
Okay, well, I would offer that without sidewalks, there's no motive for not just walking in the street. So I would think that on the east side of May, that's probably not a good indicator. The west side of May, though, if there's no path.
There aren't any ramps.
Yeah, okay.
Well, referencing sidewalks, what I would recommend is, and make sure I have this right, the city has that 50-50 where the neighborhoods will pay for 50% of sidewalks and the city will pay for 50%, and they use money that comes from the bond issue that we've had a couple years ago. And there was a big sidewalk plan that's out there. That's what I'm saying. There's a big sidewalk plan out there. This might be a good opportunity for your city councilman to try to get this area put in some sidewalks, and I think it's two different issues that are going on. I think there was some money put aside from bond money to do sidewalks throughout the whole city, and then I've heard of something that there's a 50-50 where the city would be happy to do half the cost of sidewalks if the homeowner association would do it. I'm not sure, but that might be something you can run through the city councilman and see what might be able to be done for that. Yes, please.
In the pictures, you can't see it, and we do take pretty good care of the grass out in front of the neighborhood, but there are definite ruts that have been walked into the grass going up and away from both directions of this intersection. So there is an issue with traffic, just so that everybody's aware of it.
I'd also, but we kind of, as far as providing pedestrian crossing, safer pedestrian crossing, I don't remember if any of them have been funded and actually constructed, but I know that we've approved in the past some type of flashing light pedestrian crossings on some, I think, Pennsylvania, North Pennsylvania, and some other locations. What's the process for pursuing that, crossing May Avenue?
Well, I think what you're talking about in this particular case would be like what's referred to in the manual as a pedestrian hybrid beacon. And that's one that's basically just a pedestrian-activated traffic signal that would stop traffic on the main road and allow pedestrians to go across. And the advantage of using something like that as opposed to like a signed crossing is it allows someone, if they may be visually impaired, it provides them with guidance to be able to cross the intersection. It gives them because we would use like a countdown pedestrian timer and that sort of thing, so it's audible and it does provide guidance. Those are typically traffic control features which the manual on uniform traffic control devices said should be used away from intersections and not at intersections.
So those opportunities are out there, but they're not appropriate to this application.
That would be correct, yeah. If you're talking about an intersection, then typically you're talking about full traffic signal control, which would also include pedestrian signals. But the other thing is that, the city or traffic management division's experience is whenever a traffic signal is installed on a roadway and there's no provision made for left turns, it becomes kind of a source of frustration for area residents because they would really appreciate the opportunity to be able to interrupt traffic flow moving in the opposite direction in order to be able to make a protected left turn across traffic. But when you don't have a turn lane, there's really no good means of providing any sort of signalized control for that. Which is why if in the recommendations, if the council or the commission were to proceed or to make a recommendation to do something like this, we would always recommend that you would include, widening the main street for left turn lanes. But in this particular case, the warrants here are are probably, the warrants at the previous intersection that was considered in 5B, they didn't meet, but the traffic volume here at 112th and May is an even reduced volume for both the major street and for the minor side streets.
Now, just even marking just a regular crosswalk is a concern because we don't have sidewalks. Is that true, or could what's there?
If the city was to mark a crosswalk, it would need to be ADA compliant. The images that you've got that show the ramps, if you want to bring those up, James, they lack tactile domes. I'm not sure that the slopes on those particular ramps would meet current slope requirements as covered in under the Americans with Disabilities Act, but that's not to say the ramps couldn't be modified. But on the west side of May Avenue, there are no receiving ramps, nor are there any walks that would take you from May Avenue over to the Early Wine Park trails.
So even just putting crosswalks is a hard choice right now.
I wouldn't say it's not so much hard. It would not meet accessibility guidelines in as much as the visually impaired really wouldn't gain any benefit from having something like that provided. Right. And at this point in time, I believe the applicant's primary concern is for access and actually more or less egress out of the neighborhood onto May Avenue.
Okay. Okay, ma'am, you have something? No? Okay. Anybody else have anything, sir?
I do. I don't want to lose the opportunity for this pedestrian crossing. It's got to be a lot less expensive than a stoplight anyway. And if it would help, that's a big distance. This is a huge park, a big regional park. It seems like that's the only access to the park between 104th and 100 and the next street down. 119th, that's a big distance. It seems like a logical place for a crosswalk. I realize that without the handicap, that's a big, I know it's an expense, but it seems like it's a lot less expensive than a stoplight, and it'd be some accommodation.
Well, as far as what's presented before the commission today, the only thing you've got on your plate is a request for traffic signal at this intersection. If they want to come back at a subsequent time and make a request for like a mid-block crossing at a certain location, it's something that could be looked at separately.
Well,
just not today.
But I go back to, there is sidewalk money that the city has, and I would refer you to your city councilman to go that way. And then if they can find that in that sidewalk plan and reshuffle some of the sidewalks that are already planned to be built, that's what they get to do. Yes, ma'am.
I feel like the applicant's letter was asking for two things, the traffic light and the crosswalk assistance. Am I wrong?
No, that's actually true. It's not stated, but we thought that with the traffic signal came crosswalk signals. So, yeah, I didn't
Well, if it's not clearly stated, then I defer to how you're interpreting it. But if I read it in that it was sort of a two-part, the left-hand turn assistance and then the crosswalk assistance. I felt like they were to be treated differently.
Right. Well, at the time we put in a traffic signal at an intersection like this, we would provide pedestrian crossing signals at the same time, as part of the traffic signal itself.
But since the traffic signal is not looking like the science supports it, he needs to come back on a second application for any mid-block crosswalk.
Right, and that may be
application.
And a request like that might need to look at the area as a whole and see where there seems to be the greatest pedestrian activity. Because part of what we will do, because there are also criteria set in the manual on uniform traffic control devices that look at pedestrian crossing activity. And so if there's a location along May Avenue that may be frequently used, we would conduct a pedestrian crossing study at a location like that.
All right. So any other talk on item 5C? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner Witcher to disapprove item 5C, seconded by Commissioner Miller. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is not approved. Okay, we go on to now item 5D. Trish Morris, Ideal Homes, to consider a request to establish a no parking anytime restriction on the east side of Andalusia Drive from the southern boundary of 18708 Andalusia Drive, Common Area Park, to V Drive, and 2, the north side of Northwest 187th Street from North May Avenue to Restro Lane. Anybody here to speak on this?
Good afternoon. David Box, 522 Colcord Drive.
And sir, if I could have you fill one of these out when you're done, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. Here on behalf of the applicant, Ms. Morris is also here with me. My client is Ideal Homes. The development before you is a development called Valencia. It's a development that has been very successful. It's a 640-acre tract, and they have had an enormous success, not only with the number of homes being built, but with the amenity areas that they've constructed. One of the things that Ideal Homes has always encouraged, well before we required sidewalks in this city, was sidewalks. All of their developments have always from day one had sidewalks because they believe neighborhoods are made through communities where people get out and about and walk around. What this request does in part is further encourage that. We believe there's more than adequate parking off-street, as you can see right there in the middle of the picture, to serve the amenity areas. You might remember we were here, I believe, in July for approval of that off-street parking, which this commission granted. So our belief is that we have adequate off-street parking. The folks that use these amenities are undoubtedly neighbors that live there, and we want to encourage people to leave their cars in the garage, get on the sidewalks, and walk to the amenity. If there's people that can't make it through the sidewalks, like I said, there is adequate parking. You will note in the staff report there was a request similar on Atalisia Drive, I believe in 2013, that this commission granted. So we'd be happy to answer any questions, and we would ask for your approval.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to speak on item 5D? Can we have staff input, please?
Okay, you've got our comments before you. Just in summary, the parking restriction request in Part 1 for the restriction on Andalusia Drive would be generally offset by the parking lot that was constructed on the north side of Northwest 187th Street between Andalusia and Resto Lane. The parking restriction on the north side of Northwest 187th Street will be somewhat discretionary on the part of the commission, so action on the two items will be at the discretion of the commission.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5D?
I'll move to approve.
We have a motion from Commissioner Witcher to approve item 5D.
Second.
We have a second by Commissioner Hale. Any discussion on this item? Ma'am?
I just have a question about one of the petitions. That's page 14 of the agenda packet, page 2 of 4 of, let me tell you, keep going. Starting here and the next page, I like details. The signature on multiple homes seems to be the same. What, can you help me understand that?
Hold on.
It's just a technicality here, but I am curious about.
Still owned by the applicant. It's still, some of those homes are spec homes, therefore still owned by the land development company or the home building company.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments on item 5D? Okay, we have a motion to approve item 5D from Commissioner Witcher, seconded by Commissioner Hale. Can I have your votes, please? Item is approved. Okay, we go on now to item 5E. Mr. Robert Boots, P.E., to consider a request for the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of Hidden Creek Boulevard and Northwest 122nd Street. Do you have anybody here to speak on this?
Yeah, my name's Robert Bouts. I filled one of the forms out there.
Sir, if I can have your address, and you have up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5601 Northwest 125th Street in Oklahoma City, 73142. And Ms. Yokel, it'd be fine if you want to cry at our story. Okay. So we have over 300 lots in our addition, and 65% of those have occupants in them probably at this time. Sales and construction are continuing, so we're going to be seeing an increase in traffic exiting and entering into our organization or our area in the future. At the same time, traffic is dramatically increasing on Northwest 125th Street, on 122nd Street, and I'll go into that here just in a minute a little bit. One of the things that happened to us is that the Oklahoma City Planning Commission did not approve a second outlet for us, and we have 300 lots now. They have criteria indicating that you need a second lot for 25 homes, 100 homes, and 200 lots. Not all the homes have a divided drive that is required to have a second outlet if you don't have that for 25 homes or more. So, and the reason for that, of course, is for the security of the occupants, where ambulances can, fire trucks can get in. If there's an accident blocking one of the lanes or something, there's always another to get into. The way our homes are constructed is that we're divided by a creek, and so there's no exit from the north side whatsoever to any of our units. We have a single lane moving from the bridge that crosses that creek that serves 3 of our 6 gated communities. We have 6 gated communities, so there's quite a large organization here, and we're really disappointed that the Commission has taken that action not to approve it. So what that does for us, of course, is it allows us to have excessive traffic entering and exiting over other additions that have, one or more outlets. It also affects our prices on our property, because people are driving there all the time and they take a look, at all those homes in there and the complicated structure of the roads, and there's no second outlet. They just turn around and never look any farther for the prospect of buying a home in there. So, that is not a good thing for the reputation of Oklahoma City as a whole, and it certainly isn't for us. And we don't. I've gone back in the records and looked to see why, if I could learn why the Planning Commission didn't plan for a second outlet for us. And I found that they actually did at one time, and several times, but they issued variances for it, and different things that were required in order to overcome the fact that we didn't have a second outlet. At one time, they were requiring fire suppression units in some of our homes. They also had an emergency exit through another hidden creek, not a hidden creek, another homeowner association that it looks or faces MacArthur Avenue. So those variances were all just overcome. Just deleted. It just went away. And so I don't understand why. That may be something that would be appropriate for us to look into at one time, but that's not appropriate, of course, here at this time. But I really don't quite understand how we ended up with 300 lots in there and a single outlet. Now, the fire department and Oklahoma City Police have been really nice. We've discussed this with them, and they assure us they can handle things, if we have an accident in there. But I'm not convinced of that. And neither are a lot of the residents that we have that have high concerns over this. We are a community of mostly retired people. Some of their reactions may not be as fast as others. We do have a hill to the east side when we exit that we have 550 feet, I think, of view to that of a car. And if it were 490 or less, it would have a stoplight there. So we're not too far from criteria there. The second thing I want to discuss quickly is that we really believe that the 2014 data that was used in order to make a decision on this was just really pretty misleading. From 2003 all the way through 2014, we had no accidents at all. We've had 2 accidents in the last month, or in this month, as a matter of fact, because the traffic is increasing dramatically there. The traffic now is backing up all the way from MacArthur Avenue. There's a stoplight there, past the library and past our exit. And we can't get out at all, and making a left turn, is really dangerous, and somebody's going to let somebody in, they're going to try and make a left turn there sometime, and that's going to be a disaster, because you can't see motorcycles over that traffic, for instance. The other thing that's happening here is there's so much new construction going on. Mercy Hospital, Meridian, and the Memorial Highway is expanding dramatically. On Memorial Highway between Meridian and MacArthur, there's all kinds of construction that has been going on there. New businesses are coming in. If you start from Memorial Avenue going south on MacArthur Avenue, you find a big new apartment house that's being built there, multi-story. There are all kinds of businesses in that area. And if you proceed on south to MacArthur and 122nd Street, there's a whole shopping center now that's being built at that intersection. We know the traffic is going to dramatically increase. And I just think that 2014 data is pretty misleading. I don't know whether you can estimate from the construction that's going on what kind of traffic we're going to have there in a year, but I know it's going to increase considerably, and it already is a real problem for us to exit that community.
Sir, if I could ask you to go ahead and summarize, please.
Yeah, okay. So, really, that's basically all I really have to say. Okay.
Very good. Thank you, sir. We have some more people that want to listed to speak, so you can come on up, ma'am, if you, or sir, or whoever wants to come up next. Name, address, and you have up to 5 minutes, sir.
My name is Tim Raines. I live at 5520 Northwest 123rd Street, which is in the one of the subdivisions of Hidden Creek, called the Ravine. I am currently the association president. I've lived in that area since 2007. So during that period, well, let me back up. I want to introduce. We do have some other people here today supporting this as well that live within the Ravine subdivision. Leland Hodge, Gary Higgs, Evelyn Hefner, and Julie Carr. All four of them are here and in support of this this request for a traffic signal. As I indicated, I've lived there 7 years, and I have firsthand seen the increase in the traffic. And as Mr. Bounce had indicated, there's a tremendous amount of construction. Well, first of all, between us and MacArthur, of course, there's the city library now, and that brought in a lot more traffic. That's really kind of catty corner from our intersection that we're dealing with. And there's a lot of construction at MacArthur and 122nd, including a new grocery store. So that's going to bring in a tremendous amount of more traffic. Again, I would just reiterate, there's just one entrance and one exit out of there for all of these homes. And again, I would confirm that there are a lot of retirees in there whose reaction time may not be as fast as some others. Rush hour, if you're trying to leave there at between 5 and 6 o'clock in the evening, in trying to make a left turn out of there, it's a disaster waiting to happen. And I would again concur that the traffic is literally backed up past that intersection. So to get out of there at 5:15 or something, you've got to wait for traffic to part, and then hope you don't hit somebody that's going eastbound. Again, the hill to the east is an issue. I don't know anything about those particular requirements of that, but it is certainly an issue that restricts, our time and being able to see that. Another thing I would mention, that it is a boulevard that obviously Hidden Creek is a boulevard, so it's a wider street. So another issue that you have is when you go out and you try to make a left-hand turn, people that are making a right-hand turn will pull up beside you. I would think most people would know not to do that, but if I was there first, I would hope they wouldn't do that. But the fact of the matter is they do, and they will pull up and restrict your view for those cars coming from the west. So anyway, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you very much. Ma'am, if you'd like to come on up. Need your name, your address, and you have up to 5 minutes, please.
I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you about this today. I moved into Hidden Creek.
Ma'am, if I could have your name
I'm
and
sorry,
address, please.
Annette Prince, and my address is 12317 St. Luke's Lane, Oklahoma City, 73142.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
I moved into Hidden Creek in January. I view it as my forever home. And I think probably Mr. Bouts and I are two of the younger people who live in Hidden Creek. You know, we have people who are much more advanced in age than we are, who are trying to negotiate this traffic issue. I work at the Health Sciences Center, so every morning, every afternoon, I'm confronted with turning left to go to work in the morning and then coming back in the afternoon. It is frightening to me as a young person, so I can only imagine what it would be for my older neighbors. And I don't know how many near misses we've had that haven't resulted in police reports, but I think probably since the 2014 traffic information was considered, there have been several accidents that probably did result in police reports. I myself barely missed being T-boned there as I was turning left. I had to speed up and go off into the shoulder, almost hit the deer crossing sign. And I thought that was kind of ironic that we have a sign to protect deer crossing in that area, almost at the intersection, but we don't have any kind of traffic signal or sign to protect the human residents. And ordinarily, I prefer the other animals as opposed to the humans. I haven't been hit by a dog at that crossing, but I do walk my dogs a lot in the area. It's a wonderful place to live, but as Mr. Bouts pointed out, if I'd been smart, I would have noticed that there was only one entrance and exit, and I think probably I would have reconsidered purchasing a home there. I'm in the Villas, which is the older, I think, gated community in the area. And I like to go to the library, but there's absolutely no way to get to the library, you know, in terms of walking, which is a nice walk, it's not very far, without a signal there to protect me. Sprouts is building a store. I love Sprouts. I like to be healthy, but I don't want to kill myself trying to get to Sprouts to buy, you know, collard greens and salt pork for my dinner. But I do appreciate the conundrum that you have in terms of funding particularly, but that East Hill is just terrible. You just cannot see people until they're just right on top of you. I look to the left, I look to the right, and we look back, here comes 2 or 3 cars. So even when it's not high traffic areas in the morning or the afternoon, it's really tricky to get out on that street. But again, I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you. I think there will be a major accident there, hopefully not a fatality, but I'll sleep easier tonight knowing that I've made every effort I can to try to get something done before that happens. Otherwise, Linda Kavanaugh will be making a big deal out of it on the 6 o'clock news. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else wanted to speak on item 5E? Okay, can we have staff input, please?
All right, you've got our traffic signal analysis before you. Just a little bit of information of clarity on the traffic data that we used in preparation of our traffic signal warrants was gathered on August 17th through 18th of this year. The traffic collision information, we always use the last complete year that appears in the Department of Public Safety records, but we went ahead in advance of this case and we pulled the complete history as it is today, and there's no collisions recorded yet for 2015. So, I mean, there's a lag time because collision records go from the police department to the Department of Public Safety, who enters it, and then they're populated into a database that the Oklahoma Department of Transportation makes available to, like, local government agencies such as the city. So at this point in time, there are no records available that would indicate that there's been a collision history at this intersection since it's been constructed. This particular intersection doesn't meet any of these traffic signal warrants as it stands right now for considering traffic signal or signalized traffic control. doesn't have a crash history sufficient to meet any of the warrants. I can certainly appreciate the residents' concern for safety in the area, but at this point in time, since there's no collision history, there are no signal warrants met, and it's just kind of an unusual feature. But on the mile of 122nd Street from MacArthur to Meridian, this is the only public street intersection yet that does not have any collisions recorded at it. The adjacent intersections to the west at Glenhurst Boulevard and at Valverde Drive to the east in the reporting period from 1998 to the present, each have got 14 collisions recorded. So I'll answer any questions that you may have on this item.
Okay, do we have a motion concerning item 5E?
Yeah, I do. The fact that one of the biggest issues in my mind is the fact that there's one entrance exit out of this 300 home subdivision, which happened, I guess, because of the creeks and because of the extra cost to build big bridges going north, and the lack of that developer of the north wanting that subdivision to go north into his deal. So, I'm on this street quite often, and I have really noticed in the last year a huge increase of traffic on 122nd going up to MacArthur. Like they mentioned, that it used to, it really does back up all the way from MacArthur all the way past the entrance into Hidden Creek, which is, I don't know, it's got to be an eighth of a mile at least. So that intersection itself needs some work of some traffic signalization that is better, is timed better or something. But adding up all those issues, even though the sight distance is off by whatever it is off, but there is a sight. I guess it's not textbook issue, but looking to the east, there is a hill coming right over that. So adding all those things together, I would vote to approve this application.
Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner George to approve item 5E. We have a second. Okay. Ma'am?
Second.
Okay. Just a minute, please. Okay, so we have a second from Commissioner Yockel to approve item 5E. Do we have any discussion on item 5E?
I have an idea.
Yes, sir.
So, Stuart, and make sure I understand this correctly. If the speed limit was 45 miles per hour, you would be able to approve this intersection for a stop traffic signal. Is that correct?
The way the report reads is that the manual and uniform traffic control devices allows you to evaluate traffic intersections for signalized traffic controls under different criteria. Up to a posted speed limit of 40 miles an hour, you are allowed to use. You have to evaluate it at the 100% warrant level. There's a series of tables because there's 9 warrants in the manual, and 3 of them address traffic conditions, 2 of which are applicable in this particular case. There's warrant 1, which is the 8-hour warrant, and there's warrant 2, which is a 4-hour warrant. If with the posted speed limit of 40 miles an hour, the manual says you should be looking at the 100% traffic entering volumes for warrants 1 and for warrants 2. In the event that you go to a higher speed, posted 45 or above, you can look at a reduced warrant, basically, which means it lowers the traffic volume thresholds. We didn't analyze this particular intersection based on that because we've got the posted speed limit at 40 miles an hour. Now, if someone was to come in and make a request to amend the speed limit on this particular roadway, we wouldn't be able to recommend it because this particular location would not pass sight distance criteria at that point in time.
I see. Because it looked like there was 45 mile an hour speed limits, within a mile or a half mile.
And there may be, because there's
trying to figure out a creative way to stay within the the criteria.
Right. Well, raising the speed limit in this particular case isn't even one that we could probably entertain, simply because it would put this particular intersection out of compliance with sight distance requirements.
I see.
And it may have that same effect on some of the surrounding intersections as well.
I see.
Okay, ma'am? No, well, hold on one second, sir. Hold on one second.
Could a
ma'am.
speed study be done here to see what the speed reality is? Would that matter? But I feel like the 50 feet difference on a short sight distance over a hill with all the other factors, but there's something here, but I do feel like it's inconsistent. The science tells us one thing, the engineering tells us one thing, but our gut's kind of going another way. Mine is. And I feel like my gut's inconsistent with the engineering. So I'm kind of with Chris here, and I'm just wondering, is there a speed element to this that we're not considering that could, at a later day, possibly affect the engineering, or speed's just not considered here at all?
The manual will allow you to look at traffic conditions under two formats. You can either look at the posted speed limit when it comes down to traffic control for looking at like a public investment in safety at an intersection, by widening an intersection and putting in a traffic signal. We always use the posted speed limit. Now, you can conduct a speed study, and the speed study done is typically a spot speed study. It's not a long-term history. It is just typically a speed study requires observation for at least an hour, or at least until you get 100 vehicles, and then you take the 85th percentile speed for that, and then you can say that is kind of the prevailing speed on a roadway. But when it comes to, like I said, when it comes to looking at a situation like a traffic signal, ordinarily we don't adhere to using the prevailing speeds. We will use a posted speed limit.
Okay. Sir, you had a comment you'd like to make? Come on up to the mic.
Yeah, just two quick things here is one, I think one of the reasons we haven't had an accident there is because of the older population. We're very, very careful coming out of there. But that doesn't mean that there is not a hazard there because of that. The other thing that I'm somewhat concerned about is that the Northwest 122nd Street has now been designated a major artery in Oklahoma City. I would assume that says that we're going to have more traffic in the future on that street as a result of that, because businesses are going to start looking at where major arteries are and say, gee, I'd really like to build here because there's a lot of traffic. The other thing that I've noticed is that we have, everybody in the whole neighborhood has their yard done by services. There are trucks and trailers pulling out of there constantly, and their time to cross in front of that traffic in order to avoid traffic coming over the hill is they're often underpowered and they can't move very fast. We don't want to see anybody on 122nd Street hurt either. So anyway, that's a couple of the other concerns that I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
But that's a good point that you brought up, sir. Has there been a change to the status of 122nd Street?
No, 122nd Street's remained classified as an arterial. In this particular case, we made reference to it in the staff report because since the original study was done for this intersection back in 2012, when we had a request from a lady named Cara Beal, the roadways were classified as local roadways and an arterial, but since the City Council has adopted Plan OKC, which is the city's new comprehensive plan, it's got a different means of classifying roadways. The classification just speaks to the function of the roadway within the community. 122nd Street has always functioned as an arterial because it's designed to collect traffic from residential areas and business areas and allow you to move across the city. I mean, that's why the speed limit is posted typically 40 miles an hour on a roadway like that. I mean, it just serves as a major access point. It also follows a section line, and typically the section line roads in Oklahoma City are almost always 4-lane, unless you get into the more rural areas where development's occurring, and they're typically just 2-lane roads still.
Yeah, I misunderstood that.
Very good. Okay. Well, that's clear. All right. Any other comments on item 5E? Okay. We have a motion to approve item 5E from Commissioner George, seconded by Commissioner Yonkel. Can I have your votes, please? Item is not approved. Okay. We go on to item 5F. Mr. Bill Lepper, President, Fenwick Community Homeowners Association, consider a request for the installation of a traffic signal at the intersection of North Pennsylvania Avenue and Northwest 169th Street. Do we have anybody here to speak on this item?
Mr. Chairman, prior to the meeting, Mr. Leeper contacted us and to let us know that he would not be able to here to speak on behalf of this item, and he made a request that his item be continued to the October meeting.
Okay, can I have a motion concerning item 5F?
Move to continue to
We
the
have
next
a
meeting,
motion from
please.
Commissioner George to move item 5F to the next meeting. I have a second by Commissioner Schuline. Any discussion on this item? Okay, we have a motion from Commissioner George to defer item 5F to the next meeting, second by Commissioner Schuline. Can I have your votes, please? Okay, item is approved. Okay, we go down to comments from citizens. Would this be a good time now for the Planning Commission, for the planning people to come talk, or wait till after all the commissioners talk? What would you like?
I would, if I would recommend anything, you can get your reports from other staff to be heard at this point in time, since they're typically brief.
Okay.
It'd probably be a good idea then to hear from the Planning Department staff talking about the bicycle safety plan.
Okay.
And then from there, it'd be beneficial for the commission to be able to discuss that.
Okay, so there's no comments from citizens. So now we move on to item 7, which includes staff items. So if we could have the planning department come on up, they have a presentation for us concerning bicycles. And then we'll go to the traffic commissioners, et cetera.
Thank you. I'm Randy Entz with the Planning Department, 420 West Main. You've seen me here in the past over the last 2 or 3 years to talk about the bike safety campaign, and just as a brief history, this is a result of some money we got from ODOT. The money was a combination grant to put in some bicycle infrastructure and to do a safety campaign. We finally finished all the construction portion of it, so now we have a set amount for the bicycle safety campaign, and we're moving forward with that. I have accepted a different role with the Planning Department. I'm leaving this in the capable hands of Dennis Blind, who's the principal planner for the Planning and Redevelopment Department, and Matt Sandage, the new senior transportation planner. So I want to thank you all for all the help you've been with all the bicycle stuff here in Oklahoma City. I'll continue to look over their shoulders, but these will be the faces you see from here on out.
All right, thank you very much for your answer. Oh, hold on one second.
I was just going to ask, what's your new role at the Planning Commission?
I'm the program planner for current planning, which means I work for basically for the Planning Commission, reviewing things for the comprehensive plan. So.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm Dennis Blind with the Planning Department, and even though Randy's in a different position now, Matt and I lean on him quite a bit with his history and track record here with the transportation projects in Oklahoma City. So we're really glad he's still there, and we lean on him a lot. As you mentioned, we've got 2 campaigns we're working on. The Watch for Me OKC is our safety campaign. That's came about from a 2008 Transportation Enhancement Grant Fund that the city received. It was for 2 projects. One was the bike routes that were posted around the city, and the other program that was approved in that application was the safety education campaign for bicycling, pedestrians, and drivers, motorists. What happened is we had the bike route portion of the Transportation Enhancement Grant used less money than anticipated, completed, so we had extra money left over. The city had extra money left over for the safety campaign component. So we petitioned ODOT and FHWA to see if we could expand the safety campaign, and they both agreed. And so I just want to present you a brief update on the safety campaign, and then I'll finish with Bike Walk OKC, which is the city's new bicycle and pedestrian master plan. So do you go ahead and click them, or do I have a, okay, great. Some of the things that we expanded the original application for the safety campaign included your typical thing, brochures, radio spots, things like that. And we have jumped into that. We've created a website, watchformeokc.com. We're working very closely with the Public Information Office, getting a lot of press releases out. Here in October, we'll have a major press release announcement at 23rd and Penn, basically our most dangerous intersection in the city. The mayor is scheduled to be there, and we'll have speakers. So we really kicked the campaign off at that time point. The other things we're doing is a lot of advertising. Go ahead and next slide. Here's the brochure that we have out. We've printed up I don't know what, thousands of these already. We're working with the police department, schools, getting them out to the bike shops everywhere imaginable that we can hand these out. We hand them out in conjunction with all of our Bike Walk OKC meetings as well. Inside the brochure, it just shows some real simple icons for safe walking, safe cycling, and safe driving. These are all statutes, state laws, city ordinances, but it just gives a graphic and an overview for people to see. On the back side of it, it also leads you to the website, to the different ordinances, so folks can look it up if they want to know more information. We've got these little decals on the Spokies bikes, on the baskets. I don't know if you've noticed one side, the Spokies been sponsored by Blue Cross Blue Shield is on one side of the basket, and they've allowed to put the Watch For Me OKC decal on the other side. So we're getting public notice out that way. And just last week, or well, the end of the week before, let me put it that way, about September 11th, the buses on Embark, we've got decals on those. The Watch For Me OKC Safe Walking, Safe Cycling, Safe Driving one, the top decal there is on the back of the buses, some of the buses, and then on the pedestrian side of the buses we have the larger banner decal with also some of the icons on there, and again leading people to the website to see what's going on. Mentioned earlier, we are working with the police department. They've been great to work with. They're an active partner. We're going to be able to get a lot of this information out to them as well. Another thing we're able to expand with the additional monies is to buy some counters, electronic counters for pedestrian counts and bicycle counts. The caveat there is they have to be permanently located. We can't use mobile ones to go all over the city, and they have to be on a project that had federal funding in it. So we'll have it at the Katy Trail, Lake Hefner Trail, and the new I-44 trail. And that'll tie into the counter that the state is putting in on the bridge at Meridian. It also ties in the same type of counter that Moore and Edmond and Norman and other communities within the region are buying as well, so we can all have shared data with ACOG. So that'll be a good thing for the region. And we're also expanding. One of the other expansions we had was a skills course, working with the Boathouse District to put a course in the Boathouse District for basically teach kids bike skills, safety skills, and it's for all riders of all ages and all categories, whether you're expert or just a beginner. So working with Mike Knopp down at the Boathouse District and getting this laid out, and working with the Oklahoma Bicycle Society with their league certified trainers that they have. So that'll be a great thing to have in Oklahoma City. We'd love to see over the years have these expanded all over the region, so not just at the Boathouse District. And one of the biggest component that we're able to get funding with the additional monies and the approval of ODOT and FHWA, which is we're excited about, is some demonstration projects. And what we show here, what we're going to do is that with these monies actually put in some bike and pedestrian facilities that are basically state-of-the-art as a demonstration, and it also collaborates with our master plan with Bike Walk OKC. So we've got these corridors. We've got 4th, I'll start at Walker. From 6th Street up to 13th is one of the demonstration corridors. The other in Chartel from 13th down to Sheridan. And the other east-west major one is 4th from Western over to Broadway. And we're excited about 4th, working very closely with Public Works on all these corridors, but also on 4th because it'll also overlap and coordinate with streetcar. So that'll be a great contemporary, state-of-the-art, not only streetcar and getting motorists through there and pedestrians, but also cyclists. So it's a fun challenge and a great demonstration project. Let's kind of go over some of these. What we're looking at is protected bike lanes, and that's what this picture is. This is in Chicago, but this is just a picture of protected bike lane where you got the cyclists on either side. This corridor just so happens to have parking, on the other side of the buffer, and they also have these delineators within that striped area. So we're proposing a very similar thing on Walker, proposing a road diet. It's currently 3 lanes from 6th up to the roundabout. So we'll take it to 2 lanes, one northbound, one southbound, and we'll have protected bike lanes on either side, along with the delineators. Now, the graphic shows that it's green paint on the whole lane. We're not going to be doing that. This is just, again, an example to show what can be done. And then also on Chartel, same thing. We're recommending and working with Public Works very closely on this, a road diet and protected bike lanes, but not the whole way. We're looking basically from 13th to Colcord, and then from Colcord south to Sheridan would be Sharrows which would be what we have around town now in certain locations. You see the emblem right here that shows that, so a share the lane type of situation. But with the things that are going on in that section of Chartel, that works very well and connects us to Sheridan, where we do have bike lanes. All right, next one. Then at, I just talked about the Sharrows. There we go, fourth. Now the east-west corridor, again, we're looking at configuring it, so we do have some road diet. We have travel lanes east and west. We would have still have parallel parking on the corridor. We'd have a bike lane on either side. We're also able, looking at, working with Public Works, looking at Chartel and 4th to do an improved, a protected intersection, they call it. So these are, again, state-of-the-art, mostly paint and markings, signage, but it protects pedestrians, drivers, and cyclists, and transit as you move through and in that intersection. So that's all part of it as well. And again, on 4th, the one section where the streetcar is going in, we'll just have a temporary bike lane, and that's just what that little graphic shows there. We won't be putting in the delineators and all the striping because that'll be ripped out when the project is built. So we're trying to work together. And then the other neat thing is with these demonstration projects, they'll tie into the P180 projects on Sheridan and Gaylord, so we'll create a downtown loop, for cycling as well as safe walking. So we're looking at that, and then from that, that'll expand all points of the compass with the bicycle master plan, which I'll read into right now, Bike Walk OKC. It's an update of the 2008 bike transportation plan and the 1997 trail master plan. We're bringing all that together and updating it to new current standards and moving forward. It also fulfills one of the council's priorities for this year, so that we're excited about that. Just some guiding concepts. These are not in any order or ranking, but again, we really want to promote bicycling and pedestrian and walking as an act of transportation. It is a mode of transportation. We want it to be done with these guiding concepts all the way down to safety, so working it through that way. We have a very extensive public involvement outreach program. Like I said, we have a website that's up and running. On that website, we have an online survey that's going gangbusters. What do we have now? Yeah, about 1,100 online surveys already, and it just really launched 3-4 weeks ago? Yeah, about a month. So we're getting a lot of information. Matt just organized over the past 3 weeks a number of community outreaches. They've been very successful. I have a lot of turnout to those. So the word is really getting out, and we're real thankful for that. We have a great steering committee put together, about 26 folks on it. From the city and within the city and residents and interest groups and advocates and even folks that aren't too sure about bike and walking. So we're really trying to cover all the bases on that outreach. And they're just one of the pictures there. We were at a library here not too long ago. A good turnout. This just, again, this is a map of the existing trail bike networks that we have in the city. We've got showing the trails that we have, the multi-use trails, the on-street facilities, and how we connect. And as you look at it, we have some areas that we need to connect. So that's the big emphasis of Bike Walk OKC is connectivity, safe connectivity for cycling and walking, and always realizing we're sharing the road when we're in the roadway network with vehicles and transit. And these are just some pictures we've shown the steering committee members. These are just like what if. This is Anywhere USA, a street. And when you look at it, it's okay, it's 4-lane, we got, that's your typical street. And when you apply active transportation principles to it that make it safer for everybody, you get a bike lane, you got better walking, you have road crosswalks that are safe, you have good turn lanes and good sight distances. Another corridor, Anywhere USA, where you got a wider right-of-way, you've got a little walk over there that, let's say, the developer put in probably, or the city required them to put in. And we can move forward, and you can put a side path in there so you accommodate cycling and walking. Just like the gentleman said earlier, the developments they do, they want people to use the sidewalks and get around it internally to it. We want to promote that not only internal to developments, but externally, so we can get from point A to point B throughout the city. And just an urban intersection here, your typical wide asphalt 4 lanes. It doesn't need to be. The traffic counts don't warrant it, and we could easily come in and accommodate bike lanes, better crossing, crossbars, signals, just improve the situation for all modes of traffic as you go through that intersection. So those are just some of the highlights that we've shown our steering committee, and Hoping for any questions or comments that y'all might have. And Randy and Matt and I are here to answer. Thanks.
I have a question. All right, so just stay right there. Yeah, anybody can answer.
I have a question.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
These are demonstration projects. On your funding, how much funding is set aside to maintain the system? For any of it?
Our system?
Yeah.
A lot of it. Oh, yeah.
Sorry. That's a good question. We're talking with, in all of our conversations with Public Works, that is brought up. And there is an expense, and we're talking about, when we go through Bike Walk OKC, the top 20 projects that are recommended will have a budget with them. So, and again, we've got folks from Public Works on the steering committee, so that we'll be looking at that as to the funding that's required. It's on network, within the network, within road right-of-ways. Those are very efficient and affordable cycling and pedestrian improvements. As you know, MAPS 3 with the trails, those can be very costly. And so those are more expensive. When you separate it from existing assets that you have in a right-of-way, you have to go out and buy other right-of-way.
But is it specifically addressed in the funding category that there will be maintenance money set aside to maintain?
Well, that would be all recommended within the plan itself, so that's our desire, yeah. It's our hope.
I've been, when I was with ODOT, we had a lot of demonstration projects and a lot of government safety projects, and we put in a lot of stuff. There wasn't any money to maintain it, and it kind of goes by the wayside.
Yeah,
But I'm sure you're looking.
Operations and maintenance is a big issue. Yes, sir.
Big issue. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am?
Are you new in your role or new to the city? Are you, how long?
Myself?
Yes.
But I'm new to the city. My background is over, golly, about 38 years of consulting. I came from the private sector.
Have you lived here?
I live here now, yes. I moved here, yeah.
From out of
Northwest
state?
Arkansas.
Okay, all right.
And I was a principal at the nation's premier active transportation firm.
Okay.
So I've got a lot of background in planning and transportation.
Tell me this. This is a broad question, but we cover a lot of square miles here. And bicycling and the sharing of roads and the plan and the idea is good and going the right direction. The reality of our 620-plus square miles and making this all work feels sometimes like we're trying to shove things in a box that we're not exactly ready to make it fit. It feels like bicycling, we do a great job of it recreationally here, as it being a real legitimate, planned for, protected transportation expectation. That's where it starts feeling like we're trying to put something in a space that the foundation isn't exactly there yet. We'll get to know each other. This is a topic I just have a passion for, because sharing on our roads is tricky from all aspects, from all users. And we'll talk at some point, but our road has bicyclists, joggers, tractors, horses, 18-wheelers, golf carts, the whole gamut, sand trucks, mommies on bicycles with bicycle trailers on the road. And it just feels that our road is a prime example of us trying to shove through not the city trying to shove things in a place that doesn't fit, but just our lifestyle changes with an infrastructure that's not exactly safely ready for that kind of sharing. Help me understand kind of what your first glance is on how the transportation expectation of bicycling and the recreational expectation of bicycling within our infrastructure. Because if we support it, we need a budget to it to support what he's saying. It sounds good, but if we really care about it, we're going to make it safe for everybody. That's even people on wheels.
Absolutely.
So I just would like to have an insight to where you are on this.
Yeah, it'll definitely be, our recommendations will be very safe for all users, both for the motorists, the cyclists, or pedestrians. And we're not promoting that every street in Oklahoma City or every major corridor is appropriate for bicycling and walkability and bikeability. No, there's certain ones, and that's where our expertise comes in to pick out certain corridors based on, the geometry of those roads, the traffic volume, the speeds, the adjacent land uses, how we can make connections that are safe and very aware that the street is there for the movement of traffic, and that we can then accommodate pedestrians and walkers as well. We just were involved with the Northwest Corridor study with COPPA, dealing with some mass transit issues on Classen and Northwest Expressway. And at some of the public meetings, a lot of folks say, we got to have bike lanes in Classen, we got to have bike lanes in Classen. And I was the guy, bursting the balloon going, no, I don't think we do need bike lanes on Classen. It's a busy corridor, and Northwest Expressway, it's a busy corridor. We can accommodate that movement of, cycling and walking off corridor in parallel corridors that are safe and still get, accommodate, destinations from point A to point B. So it takes a lot. It's based on, again, our collective experience and being out riding in traffic and out of traffic and in rural areas. And are we going to be able to connect everything to everything in Oklahoma City? No, we're way too spread out. But in certain areas, if we can connect just within an area, again, back to the gentleman that was talking about the subdivision that had sidewalks internal to it, if we can make that happen in certain areas, then, we're accommodating active transportation that'll improve quality of life for Oklahoma City residents.
Do you foresee any part of the messaging around the Watch for Me or the Bike Walk OKC to include things that say, and by the way, these are places that really aren't the safest for walking and biking? I mean, there's some reality check to current behaviors where it's not safe for anybody, but it goes on today. Will that be any part of the messaging?
Yeah, that's part of our analysis. Matt and our staff are working right now on what we call, pedestrian level of stress, and that's corridors that are highly, have a lot of car counts, et cetera, on it, and narrow sidewalks or no sidewalks, so the stress level is way high, so that's a red line. You don't want to do that there. You got to pull back from those. We're doing the same with cycling, level of service analysis on all the road corridors that show the corridors that have potential, the highest to worst potential for cycling and walking. And then we go in through and prioritize those corridors and do further, and we're going to do further analysis, then talking about potential road corridors that might be eligible for road diets. Take out, like we've talked with Public Works, on Walker, take out the center lane. It's unneeded up in that area, and we'll put 2 bike lanes on either side and convert it to one-way traffic or two-way, whatever the geometry of the road is. So we're looking, we're doing pretty deep dive analysis on all that information right now. So, great questions.
Anybody else have something? I got 2. One, this new plan that you're talking about, will that come to us like the one in 08 came to us before it goes to City Council?
I'm sorry, what was that?
The new plan that you're talking about.
Yeah, Bike Walk OKC?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Will that come to us for a formal review and then then we make the recommendation to City Council? That's how we did it back in 08, I believe.
Is that the process?
Randy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd be more than happy to keep running things through there. And Stuart is on the
Is that right?
Well, I was about to say, I think at this
committee.
point in time, when the commission acted on bike routes the last time round, it was basically the commission would accept any changes to the bicycle transportation plan as amended through the planning commission hearing process. So the commission would just receive that. So if the commission is going to receive any information on it, it'll be more in the way of an informational report from planning staff than it will. It won't be something that requires this commission to take an action on the item.
So we're not looking at changing the master bike plan? Because that's what we recommended, I thought, to City Council was, hey, this is a master bike plan, this is what we're kind of thinking. You're saying, yeah, we did that, but what we really did was just accept from City Council the responsibility to modify or approve bike lanes or something like that? a long time ago.
Yeah, I was about to say, the action taken just basically allows, the Traffic Commission basically lives with the bicycle transportation plan with all of its subsequent amendments. So there's not really a formal process that the Traffic Commission has to go through to review and comment on if they make changes to the plan.
It's like if they added some more
Right,
lanes.
it's not something that they need to bring before this body.
We only just made a recommendation to City Council the first time it came up.
Right, and subsequent to any amendments that would take place through, I guess, any planning commission hearings if needs be. Yeah, so this commission does not have any further hearings and does not have any more further hearing involvement.
This was more of the follow-up of the 08 talk about establishing the trails and the bike routes, the signage and all that talk that we had about that. But this mainly was for the second piece of that we've been working now, I didn't know it was 7 years, but we've been working for 7 years, which was the funding for the public education. That's what this briefing is mainly for.
Yeah, and the plan he's talking about today, the Bike Walk OKC, is an update to that 2008 plan. So some of the things may come out of that plan that don't work anymore. There will definitely be things added to it.
Okay.
So, and I think Stuart's right. It would be a great informational item for you to see.
So it would be more of an information item. This is what we changed for what you guys saw back in 08. Okay, that's great. I appreciate that. But then the second part is one of the things that we've heard over the last 7 years at bike lanes and all this is car driver education. That the education to the car driver that they have to share the road with a bicycle. Mm-hmm. And you see some letters to the editors and you see some different things. Hey, I'm the car, they're not. The car is what's on the road. I don't have to watch out for the bikes, but yet the reality is they do. And of course, a lot of this education is walkers, watch out, walk in the correct spot, do this, bicyclists, you do your thing. In all this education, is there a car educator process?
There is. We're creating radio spots right now that'll target, the AM and PM drive time to get when folks are in their cars to talk about, the safety education for drivers and that cyclists do have the right of way, in the road. Just as much as we're targeting, cyclists and walkers. I mean, all three modes, screw up and are not all out there perfectly legal. So all three have to be educated as to what the laws of the rules of the road are. So that's the aggressive part of the safety campaign is the radio spots, the billboards, getting people to the website to look at the ordinances to see whose responsibility is where when you're out on the roadway.
Yeah, when we first started talking about this, a lot of hard work was done to get to the bicycle clubs and make sure that they understand it. And that work went out and all the data went out. But we've been waiting for this piece, I think, which is the driver education to say, hey, they have a right to be there and this is what their right is. And you got to slow it down and you got to watch out for them.
That's a big part of it. And that's why we wanted to make sure we had the big decal on the back of the bus, which is their most expensive part of the bus to stick something, but we wanted it there so when a driver can look right up and there it is right in front of them. So that was a big goal as well with ours and the radio spots, and then when we do the public announcement launch out there at 23rd and Penn, be able to really pound that, and hopefully all the television stations will be there as well.
That's what I've been looking for, Randy. Thanks for your hard work to get to this point. And I understand the funding and the federal, we were waiting on the federal money to get approval to use what was left over, and so thanks for your hard work on all that. Anybody else have anything for them? Okay, do you have anything else? Staff or anybody? No? Okay, well, thank you very much for the update.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Okay, let's go ahead and go on from reports from other traffic commissioners. Commissioner Witcher?
I don't have a report. I have a couple of questions. Stuart, with the traffic signal things that came up today, I think it'd be interesting to know what the collision history would be at a couple of locations where I know that traffic signals have been added over the last 10 years or so. One of those is Northwest 104th at Council Road. And it'd be nice to know what the collision history was before and after the signal light was added. And then another one on Council Road North Council Road, and I think it's Roxbury Avenue, Roxbury. And if there's any other examples that other commissioners have, I think it'd be, my hunch is that we have about the same collision history before and after having these traffic signals added, but it'd be nice to have something to confirm that or deny it. And then the other thing is Hidden Creek. I guess I'm glad the planning staff left. It seems like there's largely the issue there is with the planning staff or commission approving a bad design, both in terms of the entry drive. I assume they have purview over that, and then the lack of a second outlet.
They're probably more concerned with the fire truck, ambulance, emergency access than traffic flow of 300 units. Good point. Hey, Mr. White? Commissioner White? Okay, Commissioner
Nothing to report, sir.
Nothing. Okay, Commissioner Hale?
I would like to echo what Commissioner Witcher said as far as feedback. It would be most helpful, whether it be a traffic light or a change of speed limit or no parking. If we had something to show the consequences of our decisions, to help us move forward, to see, yes, this was effective. It did accomplish what the residents asked for and what we were intending to do. Any type of feedback, I think, would be greatly appreciated.
Okay, we can pull together a summary of some of the more recent traffic signals that were approved through the commission and try and get some before and after collision records for you.
To take it a step further, because oftentimes we hear requests for stop signs, which, the numbers say, no, we don't need to put it up, but we go ahead and approve it because it's their neighborhood. But that type of information would also be helpful, to know that, yes, it did achieve what the homeowner association
Well, so would it be contacting the applicant and say, hey, it's been a year, have you noticed a decrease in the speeding in your area, even though stop signs aren't there for speed, it was put in there because of speeding through the area? Is it working?
To recontact the applicant, because we do have their information.
For not just street lights or street signals, for any of those kind of ones that are kind of iffy, that we kind of float, and it depends on the situation.
I'd question contacting an applicant, because the person who's got a personal investment in asking for a stop sign, then they get a stop sign, it's going to be successful for them no matter whether it is or not. But I don't know if it's worth sending staff out to get more data on where we've added a stop sign or something, but if there's an opportunity to have feedback.
In this particular case, our source for information is the DPS records that are made available to us, and a private citizen won't have access to that. So, like in the case of the Hidden Creek item that was heard today, there was reference. The residents mentioned that there had been, I guess, a couple collisions they'd said that occurred in the past month. But there is a lag time between something like that, and it's also predicated on the police working it, because anymore with the state's quick clearance law, if you're in a there are times, especially during like snowstorms and things like that, where the police just tell you to exchange information and go on. Those types of things will never appear in public records because there is no incident report that's filed. But in the particular case of this, we rely exclusively on the information that we get from the state. And the reason, in years past, we used to use our own police reports when gathering these things, but we started finding that there were gaps in our history. There was a case that the commission considered several years back for a signal at South Hudson Avenue and Southwest 149th Street. And the incident that precipitated that was a young man who lost his life crossing the street. That particular fatality collision was worked by the City of Moore's Police Department, so there was no record in Oklahoma City's records of the fatality record. And so that's why we moved over to relying on the state, which uses DPS data, and the Department of Public Safety culls together all the information from every police department. So whether a collision is worked in the city, it's from like Oklahoma County, or Canadian County, Yukon Police, Mustang, City of Moore. it's all culled together and it's there. So the reporting police department is not so much the issue anymore. It's the fact that all the reports are put together and they're collated for us. That's the reason why we've changed to the method that we do. So, like I said, it's only as current as the staff over at DPS can make it. But at this point in time, like in the case of our Hidden Creek Boulevard application, even a check as recently as this morning didn't show anything that appearing yet in the database. But when we do do the research on some of these locations, we'll be using the DPS information because it's the most consistent form for us to report on.
Okay, anything else? Commissioner Schuline?
I just want to compliment Sergeant Bales for bringing that enforcement action before us.
Very good.
I mean, a couple of you have been on the commission longer than I have, but before Sergeant Dancy, I don't remember any enforcement actions against vehicles for hire. I really think it's just important that we create a level playing field, treat everybody consistently, and I really appreciate him. Well, this was a pretty obvious violation, it seems like. I appreciate it.
I'll let him know.
Okay. Commissioner Miller?
Yeah, I'd like to see a speed study done on Pennsylvania before this next signature that we're going to be, where it says that we're in a, it's not uniformly set on Pennsylvania from Memorial. Could we get a speed study there just to see if that needs to be all one speed zone?
Yeah, we can do that, because there's one thing that was addressed in that item that wasn't, that was item 5E on today's agenda, and or 5F, I believe. And one thing that we noted on that particular, when we studied the intersection of Penn and Northwest 169th Street, is that as you head north on Pennsylvania from Memorial Road, you get alternating miles where it's posted 40, 45, 40, 45, and 40 again. So it's just one of those miles, or one of those arterial corridors where we probably need to look at, for safety and consistency, assigning pretty much either a regular zone to a certain point after which we change it, or just make it a consistent speed zone. It's safer for drivers because in the event that they don't see that the speed limit is changed, the chances of being pulled over and then getting a visit from an Oklahoma City police officer about not obeying the speed limit, it's one of the things that we can do that would make driving probably a safer and more consistent practice for people that use Pennsylvania, is by making the speed limit regular. But we will get a study done for that.
Yeah, I guess I would just, talking about the collision rates after we put stoplights in, they may not be much different, especially when there wasn't a lot of collisions to begin with, and that's not necessarily the only reason why you're going to want a stoplight. Like at the Hidden Creek, with the 300 lots, 500 people or whatever it is that are using that one way in and one way out, it almost just becomes more, they're looking for it for convenience. I mean, that's what it boils down to. I would just bet dollars to donuts that getting out at 7:30 in the morning there, or 8, or at 5 o'clock or whatever, it could take 10 minutes probably, sitting and waiting. And so, it's a big, nice development that has, 500, whatever it is, amount of people using that one way in and one way out, that really, there is the issue with collisions and stuff there that may or may not exist, but it is a issue for sure for them. And, whether they, and I didn't ask, I probably should have, whether that developer or the homeowners association would be willing to pay for a light there. Because really, that would be the only reason for me not to think that it'd be okay to put a light, is because it's going to cost the city, just $100,000 or whatever they cost. But, I don't think it will hurt. It would have hurt 122nd, the flow on 122nd whatsoever, because it's, like we said, it's already backed up from MacArthur. So allowing that, just that extra little stop to allow people in and out of that subdivision really would have helped that subdivision. So if they would have been willing, we would have asked, I guess, to find out if they were willing to pay for it, and they might be, they might have said, yeah, we would pay for it. Then anyway, so like the stop sign, sometimes it's just a convenience for that neighborhood even though stops aren't designed to slow people down, they do. And if you have a long stretch of curved interior that, has a quarter of a mile and with a lot of T's coming up to it, even though it doesn't warrant it, the stop sign, it does slow people down. People run them, people float them, I understand, but it slows that traffic down in that neighborhood. And so, anyway, that's just my... So.
I'd like to just
yes, sir.
To add to that. I mean, I think those folks are looking for the convenience, and it's a hassle to try to make a left turn around there, I'm sure. But as the Traffic Commission, I think that maybe we've got to decide whether we're going to favor the convenience of the residents in Hidden Creek, or we're going to favor the convenience of people on 122nd. Because if it's an inconvenience for somebody's going to be inconvenienced one way or the other. I think we need to be on the side of making it safer, and there's no indication that it's unsafe getting out of Hidden Creek. I don't know what the safety implications would be for drivers on 122nd, but having an additional light is going to make it inconvenient, slow down the flow of traffic, and it's going to clog things up somewhere along the way.
Well, I understand the logic, but the reality in that is that intersection at MacArthur, it backs up past that. Okay, so it's already there's not a smooth flow on 122nd at that point, and so all that's going to do is allow those people to get in and out. It's not going to slow down the person going west or east on 122nd, especially going west, but it's going to add very little time to their travels.
Stuart, do we need to look at the light at 122nd MacArthur? Because if we got traffic backing up a quarter of a mile and past, maybe we need to be looking at that intersection to help free up the traffic situation.
Well, that could maybe help. Maybe doing something like that. I know that there's a lot of lights in that area. You only drive down the path you drive down, but that intersection, it seems like there's times when the lights are working correctly and that you pull up and it'll just be a small amount of time, you'll get through it. There's other times it seems like they're not working right, and you'll sit there for what seems 2 or 3 minutes before the light, and there's nobody going any other direction. You're just sitting there. The same thing happens at 122nd and Hefner Parkway. Going west, there's times when that backs up for way past, maybe an eighth of a mile for the off-ramp on 122nd, and we'll sit there with nobody coming either way, and the traffic just backs up and backs up. I just can't imagine why it's taking so long when all these people are backing up, and then the light will turn green and it'll let like 5 cars through, and then out of 30 cars, only 5 or 6 go through. So and it may be happening on MacArthur. It may be something to do with 122nd. I'm not sure.
It's just sending somebody out to look in the box and make sure that the sensors are set right, and the timing and the different times for this is the major route, this is the back, all that, just make sure it's set right.
Could be. Yep.
Or set to specs of whatever the specs they were supposed to be. Sometimes they get out of sequence.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and conduct a regular maintenance check to see if everything's functioning properly at the intersection. And, if it looks like something needs to be repaired, we'll see that it gets repaired by our operations group. If there's nothing found that's out of the ordinary, we can always have the intersection, we can always conduct like a turning movement count, which is typically done during the 2 heaviest hours in the morning and the evening, to see whether or not we've got adequate time provided for the major movements.
Okay. Counselor, do you have anything? Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner. Go ahead. Over here. Always. There you are. Nothing for you, ma'am? Nothing for you, ma'am. Okay. You, sir?
I have nothing further to report.
Okay, do you have a motion to adjourn? Motion to
So
adjourn?
moved.
Motion. Do we have a second? All right, everybody. Okay. Let's have the lights. All right, we're out of here.